What do you want from me? I'm just blood and flesh and bones. I'm not an answer.
Welcome to Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, the show where the Office of Military Affairs keeps you mildly entertained and more or less up to date on what's going on at UNCW. Your hosts are Joanna DeMott, the Military Liaison and Program Coordinator, and Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist. Joanna, it is Tuesday. How are you?
Is it really Tuesday? I really don't know what day it is ever. I was thinking Wednesday. I'm great. I'm always great. I never change the adjective, and that's how I am. How are you, Melanie?
I am likewise great. Because it is Tuesday, it's not Wednesday. I don't know. Tuesdays aren't that bad. Sometimes. Anyway, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, Joanna?
I'm really excited today. I love UNCW's Career Center. I love what they're about, and we have Charles Ozuna, a Career Development Counselor, with us today. How are you today, Charles?
Fantastic. I didn't know what day it was either, so thank you for letting me know it's Tuesday. They just all kind of blend in together, and I stopped counting. I don't even know what month it is.
It is surprising to me when I look at the calendar and I see June and I realize that 2020 is halfway over almost. So yeah, I feel you. So mid-March, we moved locations, and I'm assuming you're not in your office at the Career Center now. How is your work situation different?
Working remotely, for me, it's a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that I don't have to put on a tie. I haven't worn pants since March. I am fully dressed, but it's good that, I can wake up and pick out, like, do I want to wear shorts, swim trunks, or do I want to wear basketball shorts in case I need to go outside? That's the level of commitment that I have to think about when getting dressed for my office, and then coming and sitting in front of a screen or multiple screens for hours out the day. That, the 11-year-old in me is like, great, I'm watching television, I can do that. And then the adult in me is like, I'm going to be blind. I'm getting cataracts soon. Like, if I have to stare at another person on the screen, I'm going to lose it. And so I have to take multiple trips outside, see natural sunlight, and then work my way back in.
I think that we should talk to Nadira and see if swim trunks could be allowed one day a week. I think that would make a very pleasant and fun work environment.
I'm fighting for some sort of change because I think it's cruel that on 98-degree days, some population at our university can wear dresses and skirts. Now, I was told I could wear a kilt. That's probably not going to work in my favor. However, I'm like, can we have some sort of like 1920s capris? Like, I've got golf pants out the wazoo. I'm like, can I start bringing those in? I'm like, can I show my ankle? Is that all right? Is that appropriate? Because if not, I'm going to shopping with Nadira, and I'm just going to wear the same thing she's wearing one day. And I just want to see who's going to say something.
I like it. I think that you should start a movement about showing your ankles. I think it would be very popular. I think we could come up with some themes around that, some great catchphrases. I'm impressed. I am impressed. We would love to ask you some questions. And when I say we, it's all Melanie. She's going to ask you some fantastic questions about what's going on now.
Sure.
But first, I'm going to tell you about the Navy's tropical uniform. Not many people are aware that the Navy has a uniform designated specifically for those who are stationed in a tropical environment, and it involves, no joke, shorts and socks pulled most of the way up your legs, because that's attractive in any climate. So, if the Navy can come up with an actual working uniform that involves shorts, I'm sure the Career Center can help you figure out something that at least is capris. So here, we're rooting for you. And if I can find, I'll link to that when we post this on social media, because now people are going to need to know what I'm talking about, because it's truly the most absurd uniform I've ever seen, other than the blueberry camouflage that has since been done away with. This is a whole other topic. Let me get back on track here. Teleworking and Charles, what are you snacking on these days? And is it different from what you had been snacking on when you were at work in the Career Center? Let's remember the Career Center is in a building full of snacking options. for those who
So
want to purchase them. So
I was very disciplined at work. I was a bit of a health nut. So I was at the gym 6:15 in the morning. Monday through Friday, small cup of coffee of that. I had almonds. I had carrot chips, vegetables. I was eating really clean because Sunday's my cheat day where I eat like a 9-year-old with no care. And I'm talking pancakes, syrup, 20 to 30 wings, double stuffed Oreo cookies, where now it has become the norm that breakfast becomes those double stuffed Oreo cookies, wheat thins with cheese dip. I don't even, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. I'm like, oh, 7 o'clock, let's make pancakes. Why not? You know? I have a good friend who John Capel, great guy. He's been my COVID buddy, I should say. And so we do Sunday night dinners. And one day I brought the dessert. I bought a frosted cheesecake and a chocolate cream cheesecake. And he said, get this out of my house. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, take it with you. This is dangerous. And it was my breakfast on Monday. I was like, yeah, why not? Just half of it gone. I'm not counting calories. I'm just like, does it even matter? It doesn't count. Nobody's seen it. It's like that tree. If there's nobody there and it falls. If I'm by myself and I eat a whole pie, did I really? So that's some of the snacking, you know, tons of water, tons of juice, adult beverages. We'll leave it at that. I mean, let your imagination run wild. Be it as it may. But yeah, snacks galore, little bits here. But I'm getting my bananas, my apples in, you know, experimenting here and there.
So it didn't count until you told us about it on the podcast. Just to let you know, that pie now, those calories now count.
Right.
It is an unfortunate element of accountability when you share things on the internet. However, I'm glad to hear that there are some apples and bananas going on. I don't know scientifically if eating some good things and then lots of bad things will ever cancel out, but you know what? You're still here. You look great.
Thank you.
We're going to call it good. Pie for breakfast is probably going to be the name of this episode, and I'm here for it. I am, for the record, here for pie for breakfast.
Hey, listen, I'm not judgment-free zone during this COVID session. I'm just like, hey, just make sure it's a flavor you like. Is it chocolate, pecan, strawberry? Hey, to your heart's desires.
Priorities. Is it a flavor you like? Nothing to do with health. We just want to know that you're enjoying it.
I'm a picky eater. Like I don't like olives. I only started eating pickles when at the age of like 28. Like I didn't drink coffee until I was 29. I'm a late bloomer. People are like, how did you survive? I'm like, I don't know. It just wasn't my thing. So there's certain things I won't try. And there's certain things I will. Like I love vanilla and chocolate pudding, but my mom's a fan of tapioca. And she tricked me one day and she was like, here. And I had it. And honestly, I didn't have a mother for an hour. I felt like she betrayed me. And I was like, I gotta go. So I could buy my own pack and put it in the fridge. I'm like, don't ever do that to me again. She was like, it's delicious. I'm like, no, all right, that's a punishment. Like I didn't like do my chores, and that's not right. You don't do that to a child.
So randomly, my mother used to do that, but she would substitute like chicken tenders, like frozen chicken tenders. She would sneak a few frozen fish sticks onto the tray and bake them all at once. And so I would innocently go biting into one and it would turn out to be full of fish instead of chicken. And it was like, I didn't eat fish for decades. I've only very recently started eating fish. And I was in the Navy and stationed in coastal towns, and we live in Wilmington, very close to the ocean. And I like only very recently was able to consume sea products. So yeah, I can understand that because the tapioca, it looks like vanilla pudding. It does.
See,
if you're not paying attention.
Hey, the deception.
Devastating. So sorry that happened to you. Okay, maybe we should talk about something beyond snacking before we just spend the entire, although, we are fans of the snacks here. Obviously, it's our first question, so that we can give it the appropriate amount of time to discuss. So you maybe miss your routine, maybe you don't, but what or whom do you not miss right now while you're teleworking?
What and whom? Wow.
What or whom? I have to make sure it's what or whom, so that people don't take a piece of bait that they weren't anticipating being invited to take on this particular podcast?
So, so the what is the commute? So for the past year, I haven't had a car. I would bike from my house to the university. And it was a short commute. I'd probably get to university in 14 minutes, which was great coming home because I beat everybody in traffic, seeing people stuck at the light and I'm zooming by like, bye. But I unfortunately, during the height of COVID, like the week we closed, I was moving. So it was really hard to like solidify people to assist you to move, view an apartment, because they're like, we're not doing views. I'm like, so how can I see what I'm going into? Like, that's not gonna work. I just can't take you at face value. Like, oh, this is a great place. And next thing you know, I walk in and like things are broken. I'm like, oh, there's a wall missing. Great, yeah. So that I don't miss, and I've actually moved further away. So my commute would probably be 30 minutes. I love biking, but that's one thing I'm like, I don't miss right now because I haven't tested the waters out. And I'm happy because I gave myself a full year. So the goal was July to July with no vehicle. So I could pay off student loans, you know, save up for a new vehicle. And so we're right there on the cusp. So I'm like a happy camper now. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make it to July because I don't have to wake up fleshly early to, you know, dart and make sure I'm at the university. So that would be something that you know, I'm glad that I can do without. But as an extrovert, it's torture. Oh my Lord. Just like the face-to-face interactions, like I am extra chipper in the morning when I do my morning walks just to say hello to complete strangers. Like, you know, you just did the, hey, good morning. I feel like I'm Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. I'm like, hi, neighbor. Hello, neighbor. Hey, great day. Good day, neighbor. You know, I'm like, whether they like me or not, have an animal or not, I'm just like, yep. I'm like, I need interaction. So, you know, I miss that. I definitely miss that about it. But I don't miss large meetings. And I think a lot of folks would be like, hey, we've got this really long seminar. I'm like, good God, no, why? So the blessing with Zoom is that you can have your profile image up. And this is a little Zoom hack. I'm not getting in trouble for it. You know, what do you do if you have to use the restroom? You escape, right? You just little pause and you walk out if you're in a real meeting. So here, you can do the same thing, but not really. You can make a cup of coffee. I've made snacks during seminars. I'm like, why? Why not? I'm like, boop, mute. You can't hear the cheese being spread or, you know, the sliced tomatoes happening and the avocados. And I'm there crunching and munching, but I'm listening, but you don't see everything that's going on. I can chew as loud as I want, sip on anything. I'm like, those are the things you take advantage of. And you're like, yes, you know, my mom will randomly call. I can answer that real fast. Like, what are you doing? I'm working, Mom. How are you? What are you doing right now? She's like, is it important? I'm like, don't worry about it. Tell me, how is everything? And then jump back into my meeting. So, but that doesn't happen all the time. But those are some of the things you can like be grateful for, but then you miss, because I do miss my team meetings with like my colleagues and like high fives and stuff. So it's different when it's on a Zoom call.
Sure, and I think that segues us nicely into one of our other favorite questions. In addition to snacking, we like to find out what are people's pet peeves on Zoom. And you've actually just identified kind of one of ours, which is that when people don't video themselves out of the picture when they're making those snacks and when they're crunching on those things, totally inappropriate behavior. So I'm glad to know that you've mastered the faux front, the facade on Zoom, the Zoom mask, as it were, and then you can run around and do all the things in the background, including crunch your avocado toast or whatever it was you were just talking about.
So I made the mistake that sometimes I'm working on the mute button. Like I know to turn my camera off, but sometimes my mute is on and I'll get a text message like, dude, your mic is still on. I'm like, oops.
It's a hazard. It's a hazard, especially because the more of these we do, it's like if the meeting generator didn't put me on mute automatically, if they didn't have that feature enabled and I have to do it myself, I'm not necessarily paying that much attention anymore. So yeah, that's a good one. The mute, we're big fans of both the mute and the video out if you need that.
Oh no, it's perfect. But I always think like the good and bad part about that mute button is like you can mute and utter things under your breath, like what are they thinking, why, and a bunch of other terms, because if you're at that meeting you can't. So I kind of feel like it's also like stress relief that I can say a few things. I'm like, what in God's green earth are you thinking? Or putting my hand in front of my mouth and saying a bunch of other things, and it's like, oh, were you saying something? Like, no, keep going, I'm in agreement with you. I'm like, definitely not. This is so not good.
I'm a big fan of like videoing out because I am not very good at hiding my thoughts, and you can read them quite clearly all over my face when I'm like, no, but what are you actually saying here? So there are lots of communication benefits to being on Zoom as opposed
Yes.
to in person. I don't know. All right, so here's one final question. If you had to telework for the rest of your career, what would be the most important things for you to keep in mind?
Wow. If I had to telework for the rest of my career, I would hope that I'm in a location that would be beneficial to me so I can still do things outdoors. Like I thankfully have a park that's 2 blocks away. So I can get some cardio, shoot some hoops. I have my bike. I can do that. We're not too far from a beach. So for me, teleworking location is important. If I'm in a good location, teleworking is not going to be hard as opposed to if I'm in a bad location, I'm teleworking and then I step outside and it's just not a happy or good place. It's depressing. And I'm like, oh Lord. So we're location wise in a great space. But I think one of the important things is having good mental health and having a good hobbies that you can do indoors and outdoors. Like one, I love the fact that we're all wearing glasses. This is cool. Like that really doesn't happen. We're shooting 100% here. So like though people are hearing us, they can't see. We all have different colored frames. And I'm like, this is pretty awesome. But I tapped into some hobbies I didn't know I had before. So I think that's something too. Like I started learning to play the guitar because I never had one. A friend was like, hey, I got one. I'll drop it off. I am sitting on a stool that I made with John. We bought pallets. He was like, instead of buying furniture, let's make them. So I made my own stools and I made my own table that's sitting on everything that's here. So I'm good with my hands, but I don't own all the tools. So what do? You find somebody who has them. So I think if I was to telework, it's having that ability to be able to step away and do something that will clear your mind, be healthy. Like, do you want to run? Do you want to cook? Something of that nature. I think as long as you're able to do something both indoors and outdoors, I think that's one of the most important things so that you stay sane, because you can get cabin fever. And my Lord, if I was like in an 8-story high rise, I would not be a happy person, because there's only but so much you can do when you can't like step out, even if you can't talk to folk, but you can step out and do your surroundings and just kind of get some movement in. So I think that for me, I think is important. So if I had to telework, it would just definitely be, am I being able to do something that'll benefit me, that I enjoy indoors, as well as just doing something outside.
Nice. I think that kind of covers all the scenarios. Like, yes, I can continue doing this teleworking if I had to, as long as certain conditions are met. Yeah. Very good. All right. I'm going to hand you back over to Joanna now, because she's got a few questions about how the Career Center is operating and how that's going, and a few other interesting questions as well.
Charles, what is your favorite thing about the Career Center? Your absolute favorite thing?
My favorite thing is that I get to meet with different students at all levels. I'm a people person, so I don't like being stuck behind a computer for 7 hours. It was not what I was meant to do. So I love that I've got different students from different walks of life, alumni, grads, and sometimes it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, that's fine. You maybe don't need to know what to do right now. So just being a voice to let them know, like, hey, it's okay if you don't know what you're doing right now. And at the same time, like, I want to make this decision, and yet letting them know, like, it's okay to make this decision. Here are some pros and cons. Like, let's properly outweigh. The worst thing is I get a kid and their parents like, my mom and dad want me to be a doctor. I'm like, that's great. What do you want to be? Because if you're going to be a miserable doctor, you can be the smartest doctor, but you're going to be miserable because it's not what you wanted to do. Whereas you wanted to be either a speech pathologist or a marine bio. And I'm like, and you're the happiest person there. So I'd rather you be happy doing what you love than rich and miserable. Let's not do that.
Absolutely. And I don't necessarily want to see a doctor who is miserable. You are not doing anything for your patients. So I love that. Thank you for that service to the entire community. You really are providing a service, not just to that person, but to the entire community. If you could give one piece of advice to a new graduate who's looking for work right now, what would it be?
Patience. In every field. Even the medical field, patience. I tell students, like, I was in broadcast undergraduate. So my goal was to either be a reporter, have my own show, or be on films, radio. And I didn't get my dream job right out of the gate. I definitely did not. I got mine, I want to say 6 months after graduation. Some people get it a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And I got my dream location. I didn't get my dream job. So I was working at a radio station, but I was handing out flyers and I was taking phone calls like, you're the 98th caller, please hold. You know, that was me, but I was in where I wanted to be. So I tell students, I'm like, patience is key, but don't just sit there and think, all right, I'm going to wait for this magical dream job to come to me. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I'm like, don't be afraid to hear no. You got to get used to rejection. You know, I say it's like corporate dating, you know, like keep throwing those out there, you know, like, yeah, our third grade, do you like me? Yes, no, checkbox. I'm like, it's just a little more professional now. It's like, you send in your resume. It's like, do you like me? Yes, no, maybe. And they'll tell you like, we like you. Yes. You know, try to get as many yeses. If you get a few, maybe that's fine. If you get a few no's, all right. You know, forget it, because then, you know, that no becomes the jilted person in the future. And then they're like, man, I wish I never said no to you. I'm like, yeah, you see? And now I'm working here and they love me. So hot, you know? So I tell them patience, and just keep pushing, because eventually it will happen. It may not happen in your time, but it definitely will, and just do the work behind it.
Absolutely. That's wonderful advice. I like the whole corporate dating piece of that. I like the yes, no, maybe too. Used to do those. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I got a ton of no's in my day.
Yeah. I think now it's more like a passive no too, right? They don't even have to tell you no. They just have to like not look at you, right?
Well, I mean,
Ghosting.
These apps have made it worse. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I hear stories about like dating. I'm like, it's so much easier now, but it's really harder, because I'm like, I'm old fashioned. I'm like, I remember walking up to somebody like, hi, you know, having a joke, having a line, or just like, my name is so-and-so, not, you know, let me just swipe on my device here and like, yeah, like, don't like. I'm like, there's no fun in that. I'm like, let's have some banter, you know, let's have a joke here and there. You know, I've met some great friends just because of witty banter that, you know, I went in with, and you can't swipe a fake accent, you know? So that you want to do stuff like that. I see you cheesing. Yeah, I used to be a thespian. I used to do a lot of stand-up and improv in New York for about 7 years. So I would just use it, you know, as part of the repertoire, break the ice or make things less awkward and uncomfortable. I would just do things like that all the time. And so, you know, that's just something I think about, and something I just share with people. I'm like, hey, you know, just be your natural self, and just, you know, continue that fashion. It's the best thing that you can do.
I love it. Now, we chatted a little bit before we started, and when you go visit family, where do you go? You mentioned the islands when we chatted earlier.
Yeah, so I am the youngest of four. My parents come from the Caribbean. My mother comes from the island of Puerto Rico. My father comes from the Dominican Republic. So I'm a Latino through and through. Though English was my first language, we spoke Spanish very fluently, so I do as well and read it. So home is New York, New Jersey. My sister was the first one to venture out. She lives in Raleigh. So she was the closer. A lot of people think, you know, I had a decision to make between Georgia Tech and UNCW. And people are like, Atlanta, like, it's beautiful. Yeah, I thought about it. And my sister, she used my three nieces as pulling devices. She knows her oldest is like kind of like my kid. You know, I've done the college trips with her. I've done the open houses. My sister's like, I don't know this market. That's your job. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So when I was thinking about my decision, she was like, well, if you come here, think about it. You're 2 hours away. I cook. You can see the girls. I was like, man, sold. So I was like, all right. And I called my director at the time, Tom Rakes, as well as VC. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming to Wilmington. They're like, oh, great. Beautiful choice. And they're like, so what was it? Like, was it the tour? Was it the people? I was like, I'm going to just be honest. I was like, you should write a letter and thank my sister. She was the closer. She's the reason I'm here. So my sister in Raleigh, but home, driving up now I can, unfortunately, is visiting my two older brothers and sisters and my parents, who are both still in New York and New Jersey. So when it's not, you know, a pandemic, I love going back home. My favorite place is Central Park in the fall and the winter. People love summer. I just love the way it looks when the snow comes down, those colorful leaves. I can spend anywhere from 2 to 6 hours at that park, and time doesn't seem like nothing. It just seems like 10 minutes. I'm just there and I can stay there. So that's home. I miss it dearly. I miss the food dearly. Thank God I know how to cook, or I would be in dire straits of like what a home cooked meal would be. But as of recently, it's Raleigh to visit my sister and give her some sense of like home community. you know, and as well as my nieces, to let them know, like, hey, there's somebody else other than your mom and dad. Because it can get real. Like, when you see the same folks, like, it's one thing by yourself, but imagine seeing the same. There's like Joanne, I know you've got your 3 boys. So I can only imagine. I'm a boy myself. I had an older brother. I had 2 older sisters. I know it's like seeing the same folks. Like, it's one thing, you know, school's closed because it snowed 1 or 2 days. But every day, because of a pandemic, after a while, you kind of get sick. And you're like, dude, I need some space. I need to see someone else who looks different, you know? And as a parent, you're like, what? What do you want? Like, get a job already. Like, what is your 401k plan? What is your credit score? You start saying things. You're like, why am I saying this to a child? Like, I told my 9-year-old niece, I was like, what's your credit score? She's like, what? What does that mean? And I was like, we'll talk about that in the future, you know? So little things like that.
It has been so amazing getting to know you, Charles, and I just want to thank you for coming on today. It's been a little bit more than mildly entertaining, so we gotta step back a little bit, but we really do appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't know about being mild. I don't know what mild is, so I was trying my best to like bring it down. Like, I'm usually at an 11. I was like, maybe I can get to like a 7, so it's not too strong. But no, I definitely appreciated my time here. This was very fun. Thank you.
Yes, you did a good job of dialing it down a little bit. We'll, you know, Joanna and I hopefully have sort of balanced it out so that we're mostly just mild the way we prefer to be with the Mildly Entertaining podcast at UNCW. And this has been an episode of Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, and we will see you on the internet.
Thank you for listening to Mildly Entertaining. Our intro music comes from the band Blue Turnip and their song, What Do You Want From Me? You can find their EP, Songs from the Root Cellar, on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, and Spotify. For more information, you can go to blueturnipmusic.com.